Oh no, does he really think that? That's awful. Dear brother, how are you? Keeping busy, I hope? You said I could always write you for advice, no matter how weird it was. So, well, I'm calling you on that. It's about my wife. I don't know what the hell is up with her. Well, you've met her. You know how quiet she is. It's impossible to get her to actually tell me what's wrong. I'm really worried about her, and I don't know what to do. He seems to care about her a lot. She got fired for unfair reasons. Ugh. Here's some backstory. You know her, she's always been weird and introverted. It's charming most of the time. Ever since she lost her job, though, it's been dialed up to 11. I encouraged her to take up the science project of hers right after, because I figured she needed something to ease the transition. But it's been over a year now. I thought she would have found another job outside of engineering. Or better yet, decide she's ready to have kids. Not just because of the motherhood credit, but given the extra hours I'm pulling to compensate, we sure could use it. I mean, it's not like I didn't know what I was getting into, marrying a girl 15 years younger than me, but the obsession can't be healthy. That's so harsh. What happened a couple of days ago really freaked me out. It still does. I get home at 9 as usual, expecting to see her working on whatever it is that she's working on, or watching a drama or something. Instead, she's in the kitchen, on her hands and knees, scrubbing the floor violently. And I mean, our kitchen really is a mess. Everything in the apartment is a mess. I'd clean it myself if I weren't so dead exhausted after 12-hour workdays. It looked like she had put in a serious effort into cleaning up, which seemed good, except actually looking at her, she really didn't look okay at all. Then she looks up at me and suddenly starts to cry. Be honest with me, I'm worthless, aren't I? She asked me, totally out of nowhere. What the hell do you say to that? Of course not, I told her as immediately as I could. She heard me and she didn't show any sign of it. I'm worthless. I know I'm worthless as an engineer. I would not have been fired. I'm worthless as a scientist, or my work would receive attention from people, she whimpered. I'm worthless as a wife too, aren't I? I guess it's hard even for her to be strong for so long. You're not, sweetie, I told her. I got her to get up and sit on the couch with me because discussing things with her on the floor would just be impossible. I tried doing the usual thing where I hug her and rub her shoulders, but it didn't seem to help this time. Neither did arguing with her. Our apartment is a disaster. If I were better, it'd be clean, wouldn't it? You are surely disappointed about that, she said. You've been busy, I told her. I don't really understand why she hasn't been able to find the time, but I could hardly say yes, could I? We never eat together, either. We rarely talk. This is the most we've said to each other all month. It's my fault, she said. Do you have any idea what to say to that? I have no idea how you're supposed to reassure women when they're telling the truth like that. I mean, I knew I couldn't agree, but all I could think to say was, no, it's not, which is pretty lame. How long prior was the last time we even had sex? I'm worthless that way too, she said. She even worried about those things? Oh. Well, something's been on your mind the last few times we tried. It's okay, there's no pressure. Besides, it's not like we're newlyweds. That doesn't matter, that's no excuse, she said. Or have you just given up on me? You have given up on me, haven't you? I tried to say something, but she cut me off. I really am worthless, she cried, and now I am really wasting your time with whining, aren't I? You're not worthless, and you can always talk to me. That's what I'm here for, I responded. It sounded pathetic the moment I had said it. What if I started cooking dinner for you? If I'm spending all my time at home, I merely should be carrying my own weight, she said. You don't know how to cook, sweetie, and that's fine. I truly am worthless, she said loudly and started to cry again. I was at a loss. Well, he's trying at least. And frankly, I'm still not sure if what I said was the right thing. It sounded idiotic at the time, and it sounds that way now, even though it got her to stop crying. If you know what I should have said, though, I'm all ears. Oh, hold on. I forgot what that was. Okay. You can help out with the cleaning if you want, though. It would be nice. It looks like you've already done a lot of hard work, and I really appreciate that, dear. And if you want to, I'm not going to complain. I stumbled over my words like an idiot. An idiot whose idea of comforting his wife was telling her to clean up and have sex with him. What the hell? Even if it did get her to stop crying. I don't know, I'm bad with women, clearly. I can do that. I'd like to. It would make me feel less worthless, she said. Besides, I'm your wife. Then she wiped her tears from her eyes and gave me a really intense look. Do you want to? She asked. I'm not a young man anymore. It's not like that's really something I had in mind, especially seeing her like that, but how could I say no? She kissed me, and I got into it soon enough. Don't get me wrong, it's like... It's not as if I dislike kissing my cute 20-something wife in her soft lips. It's just the circumstances, you know? Sex is supposed to be all about connecting people, but it just made me think that I don't really get her. Connecting people? Is it really? I never thought of it like that. I have no idea what had triggered this. It's really hard not to think about what's going on in her head while she was doing that, and how if I know? Maybe it's not so bad, though. I felt like she had passion again, at least. I guess it's because she felt like she had to overcompensate, but she took the lead, guiding my hand up her skirt. At the risk of being too graphic, she held my hand while I played with her and kissed me gently. It seemed very sweet of her. After that, she went down on me. I didn't really think anything about it while she was doing it, for obvious reasons. But after she was done, she sat on my lap and held my wrist tightly. And it occurred to me that this was the first time she'd given head in years. I really hope it wasn't for my sake. I don't know. Wait, is she reenacting? Ah, geez, so yee. Her eyes were still watering at that point, but she also refused to let go. I don't know what the hell to make of that. It's been a couple of days now. Oh wait, but she never mentioned that. The apartment is pretty much all clean. She took it really seriously, I guess. I'm still really worried about her. Even after that, we haven't really communicated any better. She feels worthless. Is a clean apartment really going to make her feel like she has value again? I mean, I know she does. I just don't know how to convince her of it. On the other hand, I just realized the one thing right now that I didn't say to her, and I should go do that. So never mind, I guess. I don't need to send this letter after all, which is good, because it'd make the next family gathering weird. And talking to my wife just made you think of your old brother's manhood. That would be gross. I mean, I sure don't want to think about yours either. Of course, you idiot husband! Anyway, now I'm going to go tell her what she really needs to hear. That she should keep on doing her science thing, whatever the hell it is. That's probably the thing that'll make her feel like she's not worthless. If she believes it's important, that's what she should decide herself. That's what she should dedicate herself to doing. That's less awkward and weird than household cleaning and sex, at least. I'll tell her that I'll keep supporting her in her struggle with that. I think that's what she was looking for this whole time. Oh, well, if you figure it out in the end, that's good. He really is a good man after all. I'm glad I realized that. Love, even though I'm not sending this. Amen. There's something I want to talk about. Sorry to get all suddenly serious on you, but I feel really weird reading some of those logs. It's just, especially reading about relationships, I get a very adult feeling from them. Really, it's hard, isn't it? And all this politics stuff is just so far above my head. It's hard to admit, but there's just so many things I don't understand at all. I mean, I'm over 600 years old, but I feel like such a child reading some of these things. I like the idea of following my childhood dreams, being an engineer like my real father. But now I'm reading about someone like Kim So-hee and how hard it was for her, despite being really smart and having a job and a supportive husband and science on her side. It just makes me think, if even someone like her could barely deal with being a responsible working adult, what hope does someone like me have? It's hopeless, isn't it? I'll never be a functional adult like them, will I? I believe in you. You do? Oh, I knew there was a reason why I wanted to be with you. Thank you so much for saying that. I'm sure with someone as wonderful as you by my side, I can learn how to be a real adult too. I can always learn how. And I guess the first step is to try to understand, isn't it? Very well, let's get back to reading these logs then. I'm going to do my best to try to understand the things that they keep talking about. I'm sure I can if I try. That's not how this works, honey. You can try all you want, but you're still not going to get shit. I know you didn't ask or anything, but I talked to an AI psychologist to get some context for the whole robot girl shit show you've got going on. It's fine that you're this whole stoic loner type and all, but it might be good for her to get some help. Anyway, I've attached what they said. I figured you'd appreciate it. No need to thank me. Dispatch control out. While meaningfully different on a lot of levels, AI construct psychology is generally modeled after human psychology. I personally found this is where problems manifest the most often. Often the biggest issue in AI-human relationships has very little to do with any universal particulars of AI psychology, and more to do with very different perspectives on mortality. Simply put, even now, human society is not really meant to accommodate immortality. Were an ordinary human to live for hundreds of years, they'd likely have a very similar experience. When you do a single thing for centuries, you eventually hit the limitations of differentiable skill. For example, a 500-year-old artist has more experience than a 300-year-old artist, but the difference is so subtle it's drowned out by all other factors for most people. At a certain point, too much experience actually becomes a detriment, because becoming too overwhelming to parse and prioritize in most cases. Even given consistent processing power increases, as per Robertson's law, there is simply an upper bound in scalability when it comes to processing memories, and after centuries, this begins to take a toll. What this translates to generally is a feeling of overwhelming despondency, although to much younger beings, AI included. These sentiments can feel more akin to an old man shouting, "Get off my lawn!" and it comes from a greater sense of, I know this word, ennui? Than that, a feeling of one's own mastery and knowledge of a subject being trivial compared to societal trends that become increasingly alienating. It often contributes to a feeling of helplessness. What was pioneered in the 27th century AI psychology, then called robo-psychology, was the idea of re-specialization. For beings that exist in social spheres with humans, the best way to stave off those feelings is to consider the much larger scale, and instead focus one's energies on a whole new field, where learning new skills has a much larger personal impact than refining something one has already mastered. For example, I personally used to work as a photographer until moving on to human psychology, then later AI psychology. I still take some pictures now, of course, and keep up with the work of people like Mark Lee, but I find it's much easier to be positive thinking and optimistic if I don't consider advancement of that medium to be important in my life anymore. I'm sure someday I'll feel the same way about psychology, finding new limitations and attitudes to be frustrated by. It'll be comforting to know that I could help people while I was emotionally able to, no matter how cynical and slow I'll inevitably get. Generally, I find a good time to consider respecialization as around the 400-year marker, although obviously it depends on each individual. I don't know anything about your particular circumstances. It sounds like culture shock is also a very significant factor, and that can change things a lot too. I would be very happy to speak with the construct in question at my private office on Earth, though. Consider it a personal favor for all you've done for me in the past. Dr. Autumn, the Susan Calvin Institute, North America, Earth. Oh, she's an AI too. Or he. I just can't read really well right now. I guess I'm kind of short of breath for some reason. Alright, I'll take a break. Alright. My allergies have been bothering me a lot, so I'm gonna sound really stuffy. Sorry. Oh, that's me. She's writing about me. No, whatever the hell that is. It's translated as the Pale Bride, instead of Sick Daughter for consistency's sake. The ship sailed on getting that one right a long time ago. That's me! Kim Hyun A. Look, there's even a photo of me. Apartment status. Bed is made. A few dishes need to be washed. Takeout containers need to be taken to garbage. Food is clean. Floor is clean. After 2 years without any sort of breakthrough and dozens of appeals without any form of acknowledgement, I believe I have discovered the evidence that I need to provide definite proof. Well, I guess that story sort of came true after all, huh? There has always been a bizarre family legend of an eccentric but brilliant ancient Earth-born ancestor who saved his terminally ill daughter through unconventional means. Or methods. In some tellings, she is a ghost that lives in the computer. In others, she is sealed away in an alternate dimension to return when the ship has landed on a planet with fresh air. I learned the truth from my grandmother at the New Year's gathering. In reality, she does exist, and is merely in cryonic sleep in the family storage closet. I caught a glimpse of her at that gathering and realized she was the key to proving my thesis. Today, I return with my husband to their home, having offered her a her great-grandchildren-related bribe in order to have access to the sleeping pale bride to run tests. My theory is, as she has not consumed food or water or breathed air in nearly 1600 years, if there has been a significant increase in ambient radiation in that duration, she should be significantly less affected by it. Her chamber was sealed partially by glass, so she may not be completely unaffected, but I anticipate that the difference will be readily observable. The technology involved in her preservation seems extraordinarily designed. I can believe that it came from the same level of earthborn brilliance that built our ship. Earthborn brilliance? Finally, someone acknowledges that my real parents were smarter than the people later on were. Oh, that's a good idea. While my husband was gracefully distracting my grandparents by listening to their stories, I set up in the storage closet, attempting to open the capsule labeled Kim Hyun-A, Pale Bride. This action was easier said than done. A separate hacked-together computer was regulating the capsule, but the labeled switch for opening it was non-operational. It took a significant while to figure out that I needed to connect a secondary battery and insert an override key to enable the switch. It did not help that I was very trepidatious to fiddle with Earthborn design technology that was completely over my head. Accidentally causing damage with my clumsiness would have been disastrous. See, she figured it out. Why couldn't my adoptive father be as smart as her? The warm-up cycle took a good 10 minutes. As I watched her, I became very aware of the fact that she was a real girl, a very old one, an orphan who lost her family centuries ago, who likely had her own hopes and dreams. I found myself hoping that one day we would find a way to let her live the rest of her life. Although given the state of modern medicine, optimism would be sadly unfounded. Very unfounded. Even after she was brought back to life by the machine, she did not actually awaken, going from a near-dead state to merely sleeping. She looked very peaceful. I tried not to disturb her too badly when I took a small sample of her blood. Still, she started to open her eyes, mumbling quietly. I did? Who are you? She asked. Go back to sleep, little one, I said, touching her face gently. It's not time to wake up yet. I don't remember this at all. All right, she murmured, and she closed her eyes again. I suddenly felt guilty and quickly put her back into the freeze where she belonged. It is justifiable, of course. She remains unharmed and will continue to rest peacefully. I doubt she will think of it as anything more than a brief dream. And regardless of any discomfort I cause that poor child, proving my hypothesis may be necessary for ensuring that society thrives until the future, where she might awaken. Ah well, if it was for a good cause, so I don't mind. Afterwards, I rescued my brave husband and let my grandparents pester me about our family plans instead. I did not mind talking to them, and they discussed things more freely than the usual tone at large family gatherings. I was very alarmed to discover just how badly even the main branch had been doing over the past couple of years. Using the counselorship and therefore nobility status has had a great impact on everyone, not just me, although I still feel my situation is worse. I guess things were tough for everyone, huh? Hopefully, however, the situation will only be temporary. If the data received from analyzing the Pale Bride's blood sample supports my theory, and I am confident it should give it enough strength that I will be taken seriously again. Things may not improve in the short term, but they will eventually. Of this I have confidence. Oh, that's bad. Room status. I give up. I quit. The act of cleaning is a futile gesture against a human-generated form of entropy, and entropy invariably wins in the end. My attempts to make order out of chaos have been futile. I give up. Moving in has been completed. Not that it was a very long process. We only have 2 rooms now, and they're not very big. I wish we had moved in with my parents instead. If only we had swallowed our pride sooner, but instead my sister beat me to it, so now I am stuck living with my in-laws in their garishly decorated home. I do not wish to mention it to my husband, because I appreciate the economic circumstances that necessitated our move, and do not wish to seem ungrateful for the support they are providing by renting us the space. But I do not like my in-laws at all. My mother and father-in-law are old enough to be my grandparents, which is fine. However, I find them to not be friendly. They are rude. They simply do not speak to me ever. My brother-in-law seems friendly and very spirited, but to me he never says anything, and immediately excuses himself from any conversation I attempt to start. Harsh. Why would people be afraid to talk to her? I don't understand. I believe they are afraid of me. I do not understand why. And I wish I knew what it was that I have done to inspire such feelings in them. I find it very hurtful to be surrounded by people, but have them willfully ignore me for reasons unknown. I stay in the bedroom as much as possible as a result. We have a computer screen next to our bed anyway, so it is sufficient for me to work from. If I bury myself in work, I can ignore those feelings. Thankfully, work continues at a good pace again. It took much longer than anticipated, but I was finally able to use my old professor's equipment at Mungungwa University to perform tests on the pale bride's blood. The results are unsurprising, and the proof is unequivocal. Whatever. Ambient radiation on the Mungungwa truly is much higher than the standard baseline. The current levels are not normal, and with minimal massaging of the data, a linear direct correlation with birth rates and ambient radiation extrapolated from current levels in the pale bride's blood can be demonstrated. She was right. There is no doubt our society is being killed solely by infertility caused by increased radiation levels. My report is complete. I will certainly be able to present it, and I have no doubt it will be taken seriously. I merely have to get through this, finish all this work, and finally I will be able to get my life back on track. Room status, dirty. At long last, my final report has been completed. I had to get someone else to submit it for me, but finally my work is starting to pay off. I have an audience with the Counselor of Engineering to present the matter for his consideration. I was so happy to write the recommendation section, however. Thinking about the future and how I could do work that was actually recognized as valuable and help safeguard the ship's future, it makes me feel as though I have a purpose once more. It is a feeling I have forgotten over these past few years, but I would like to remember it again. My husband does not share my optimism. Things have been strained with us as of late. I guess her optimism was wrong, though, still. We had never been able to communicate under the best of circumstances, but even more now. I feel as though there's a wedge between us. When I told him about having a chance to prove myself and how I was looking forward to the future, he just seemed upset. I wanted him to be proud of me for making it this far, despite all the difficulties. I wanted him to be as supportive of me as he was from the start. I want to feel like I'm not doing this alone, I pleaded with him as we got ready for bed. What are you going to do if they ignore you after all that? Oh. What if they don't go through with what you want? What then? He asked me. He seemed disappointed. Have you even considered that possibility? It's unlikely. Why are they fighting? I thought he was good for her. The data is irrefutable and easy to understand. Radiation is unquestionably the case of decreased fertility on the Mungungwa, I told him. I have confidence that no reasonable person could disregard my report. Fine, I'm sure it is. He trailed off. I don't care. I'm going to bed now. He turned his back on me. Wait, I said, hurrying over to sit in front of him. What if I did make plans for the extremely unlikely event that things do not work out? Would that make you happy? Forget it, he said, annoyed. I mean it, I said. I do not want to be the cause of you being upset. I want things to be amicable between us again. I am willing to make contingencies for things that I do not believe will occur if it is something that will make you happy. I don't know what the hell that means. You're doing that thing where you talk over my head, and I hate that, he scowled. That's so harsh. I'm sorry, I said. If you want me to consider that things might not work out, I will consider it. Let's consider it. I do not think it'll happen, but there is no harm in considering it. What's the point? I'm sure you'll find some smart talking way around it in the end. Anyway, so you can just go back to your self-obsessed science project shit in the end. You always do, he said angrily. Please don't say that, I said, my voice quavering. You're my husband. I love you more than anything. Please, don't you stop taking me seriously, too. I looked away and there was a long pause. I felt like crying, when just minutes before I was so happy. Eventually, he made eye contact with me. He seemed to be confused. Sorry, he said in a sheepish manner. Do you really mean that? You love me? Yes, of course, I stated. You've never said that to me before, he said. I was skeptical. Are you sure? I asked. I'm absolutely positive, he told me. I was sure he was wrong. But as he had just apologized to me, I saw no reason to worsen things by arguing. Well, I do, I said. I love you very much. Come here, you, he said, grabbing me, pulling me onto his lap, just like the old days. He hugged me, and I was unable to stop myself from crying at the moment. What's wrong? He asked. I'm happy, I told him. Oh, he said. Let's make fallback plans, I said, in case I am unable to convince them. What would you like to do? What would you like? He was quiet for a moment. I want to have kids, he said. Oh, so he was just, I see. Not just because it would help with the money. I just want to have kids. I want to have a girl, an adorable little girl who will be smart and pretty and dedicated, just like her mother. After that, maybe we could have a couple of boys. She'll have to learn to keep them in line, but I can teach her that. And you can teach her science. All right, I said. It's so nice that they agreed on these things together. He's so nice. You promise? He asked. After all this is done, if your presentation doesn't lead to a job, you promise me you'll settle down and we'll try to have kids? I can make no promises with regards to gender, but I promise, if my presentation is unsuccessful, I will give up and we will try to have kids, I said. It seemed to comfort him a great deal. Oh, so Yi. I felt guilty and hoped that he did not have his hopes up. It is unlikely that the report will be ignored, so I will not be following through on that promise. In the future, maybe we will anyway, but it was a promise that would not lead to anything. Because I am certain that I will be very busy with work in the future. I hope it does not disappoint him. Wait, but that date is right before... Oh, I get it. I'm happy now, though, and I'm optimistic for the future. I have an audience that will lead to something being done about our society's greatest problem. And with the irrefutable and extensive proof I have compiled, I will be taken seriously again in just a matter of days. I will be on track again. I am so happy because after I promised that, he took me by the chin, smiled, and said to me, I'm going to hold you to that. I'm also going to kiss you now. Well, at least she had such a sweet husband at her side. I nodded. I'd like that, I told him. When he did, I had never felt such relief in my life. I had my husband caring about me again, and I had a future. I had value and a purpose, and finally, it will not just be me repeating these things to myself. I have persevered for so long, and soon it will pay off, in just a matter of days. I also enjoyed that kiss, aside from its symbolic meaning. It simply felt very nice. I could have melted in his arms right there. I'm certain everything will be all right. Alright, so now we need block 6. The new council. Geez, she's scary. Idiots, we've taken a completely functional political institution and replaced it with a collection of absolute idiots. Councillor Mute shouted at me the moment she appeared on screen. Good evening, Councillor, I said. Tough day at work? Don't you start with me, she rolled her eyes, wagging her finger at me. I've dealt with enough bullshit today, okay? I'm sick of it. Sorry, are you the only councillor who's remained after the whole meritocracy thing? Me and Chief Councillor Ryu. Somehow that dimwit was the only other member of the council who managed to pass his exam, she said, throwing up her hands. What the hell? Huh, that's all because of meritocracy? I gave her a look. Not even the Councillor of Education was able to retain his position. Surely one would think he would have no problem, as he controls the exam's content, I said, perplexed. I did not like what I was hearing. This was a radical shake-up of the political climate, and that is never a good thing. Like, I have no idea. Your guess is as good as mine. I mean, education stayed in the O family at least. A couple have actually gone to totally different families altogether, she said. Whoa, I said in surprise. I see. Yeah, which is actually pretty big given the whole nobility status is tied to council positions thing. Meaning that, like, the Kim family just straight up don't count as nobles anymore, she said. I found myself feeling immensely grateful that my family's status was perpetually tied to Mute, who has the advantage of being perfect, and therefore not very likely to fail any exams anytime soon. Regardless of how utterly repugnant the notion of nobility having to prove their status is, I said as much to her. Yeah, she said, giving me a look. Harsh, but I guess with how hostile the council was, I understand. Anyway, I want dossiers on all the new counselors made. First line for each. Utter idiot. But like, I want to know who these people are. Especially the ones from new families. I don't know anything about them, and I want that changed, okay? Yes, ma'am, I said. I thought about it for a bit, then suggested... We should also keep a close eye on any family that has lost their nobility status as they may cause trouble. Good call, she said. Hey, let me bounce a crazy theory off you. Do you think this could have been a power play by Chief Counselor Ryu? I considered it. It seemed unlikely to me, given all that she had said about the man. He was the one she handpicked for the position of Chief Counselor herself, and her judgment is impeccable. There is no way that it could be a power play, because the whole reason why she suggested him for the position was because he wasn't the sort to make one. You're probably right, she said. Still, I don't know. It's weird. I mean, the whole insufferable meritocracy idea came from President Park, but Ryu's the one who formally proposed it in council on his behalf. And now that it's in place, he's the only one who's still got a position. Makes you wonder. I wonder. I still don't believe it to be in character, I said. Okay. Well, I said it was a crazy theory, she shrugged. Anyway, what have you got to report to me today? We spoke no more of the new council that day.